So welcome everybody. I'm Ana Maria and I work for Participate Learning. I'm thrilled to be here today for our second United We Teach Summit. A few housekeeping reminders as we get going. Continue to introduce yourself in the chat. We love to know who is in the session with us, and to include details around where you're calling from and what your Twitter handle is, if you have one. If you're comfortable, go ahead and turn the video on. That will create more of a sense of a community for everybody. We ask that you mute your microphone so that we can minimize the background noise, but feel free to unmute it if you have questions, especially after Manfredo's presentation. Also put those questions in the chat and I will make sure to collect them and ask Manfredo at the end of the session to answer them. But we would love for this to be a conversation, so feel free to jump in there and ask Manfredo any questions you may have. The gallery view, if you're familiar with it on Zoom, that also helps create that sense of community. It's really cool to be able to see everybody, so we encourage you to do that as well. And then use Twitter throughout the session to share about the session by using the United We Teach hashtag. And we encourage you to actually follow that throughout the day and participate in it. And before I introduce the presenter, just a few words about Participate Learning and about how the United We Teach community came to be. Participate Learning is an education organization based in North Carolina, United States. We are over 30 years old. And throughout all this time, we've been promoting a passion for global learning and just general appreciation of other cultures through our teacher exchange program, our global education, as well as dual language programs. And the United We Teach community was created almost a year ago. It will be our first one-year birthday on March 18th, actually coming up, so super exciting. And it was created as a gathering place for teachers from all over the world who were looking to connect with other teachers and really were looking for support during the new reality of the schools during a global pandemic. So in less than a year, this community has grown to over 1,000 members who connect with each other through the community discussion threads, as well as through our weekly live sessions, which take place on Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. The United We Teach summits are global, are free, are open to educators from all over the world. And they're a wonderful opportunity for this community to come together live, as well as to continue to learn from each other and make new connections. There are many of you who are new members, new to this community, and we welcome you. If you're not a member of this community yet, we encourage you to sign up and to join us. And I'm going to put the link to the community in the chat right now, as well as towards the end of our session. And also to use the discussion thread to participate in a conversation related to the summit. This is where you can also connect with the presenters, connect with us, Participate Learning family members. We all, that's how we like to call ourselves. And also to tag each other and as well as the presenters. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our next presenter, Manfredo. I am so excited to introduce you today, Manfredo de la Cruz. He's a Participate Learning ambassador from Guatemala, who is currently in his second year of teaching in our elementary dual language program in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. His US experience is just one stop in his most extraordinary teaching journey. Before he came to the United States, he taught native indigenous students in Guatemala. He even learned the Mayan language so he could connect with the students' families. Manfredo shared with us that throughout that experience, he learned that poverty and inequity are never obstacles for students to keep learning. And he is truly one of the most empathetic teachers we've ever known. He himself will tell you that empathy is one quality that he values the most in himself as a teacher. So Manfredo, we're honored to have you as a presenter at the summit and as a teacher in one of our programs. The floor is yours.
All right, guys. we got a lot to go, and wow, the time's just flying by. Thanks, Ana Maria, for that introduction. I appreciate every word you said. So we're going to make every second count here in this webinar. So hello to all of our friends joining us. I know that many of you are joining from different part of the world. Some part probably is the afternoon already. So thanks for being here. In the next lot of time, we are going to rock and roll in on a cultural roller coaster ride. So just be ready. And I hope you guys are excited. I hope you are ready to play along. Okay, so if you guys are ready, fasten your seatbelts because it's time to lift off. Vamos a comenzar, as we say in Spanish. Okay, this session is to talk about having a famous special guest into our classrooms. And I'm gonna share with you 3 lessons that I learned during that experience. Um, as you know, guys, Santa Maria say, I'm teaching in the Outer Banks. Probably, do you don't have any clue where the Outer Banks is located? But if you have an idea about where is the Outer Banks, I know for sure that you agree that I'm living and teaching in paradise. If you have that experience before, you can be agree with me. So let's get started. Having a guest speaker in the classroom might be for some people like a bad idea. For some, could be a beneficial uh, idea, or in any event, it is a very useful tool that is sometimes neglected and is oftentimes left aside. In this webinar, guys, I'm gonna present an overview of its highs and lows and what can be done to improve our students' learning on a more interactive one-on-one topic specific basis. Some examples and tips are mentioned to understand how this technique works and how it can be properly applied in our classroom, even if this is a DLI classroom or a regular classroom. So this tool can be very helpful, not just for the students, but it can also contribute to the teacher's knowledge and practices. One of the most effective teaching strategies for teachers at every level is an invitation to a guest speaker to visit the classroom. So now in these settings, during the pandemic, we can change the settings to a virtual invitation. Including other voices in the classroom invites different perspectives and shows that learning is a collaborative effort. It is important to remember, however, that inviting a guest speaker is not simply intended to give the teacher a break or a rest from our daily routines. Students, they have the opportunity to learn something new or hear a new perspective um, on a topic that interests them from a guest speaker. Students can also discover new interest in a topic where previously they had little interest. The guest speaker is the real world arriving to our classroom. Most of the time, we are struggling how to relate the instruction with the real world. And here's an idea: just bring the real world to your classroom. The speakers may be parents presenting during Heritage Month, nurses and doctors discussing health issues, or an engineer giving background information on bridges before the annual craft stick bridge building contest, or even above and beyond, an astronaut. A guest speaker support subjects a teacher may not know a lot about. Remember, we don't know everything. We are teachers. We are doing our best, but we don't know everything or too much about some topics. That's why you can invite a specific guest. In that way, you can show students that teachers are not the final word on important topics, issues, or current events. The guest speaker will educate students, but can also be a good resource for the teachers as well. Inviting local guest speakers is great for creating community relations too. In most towns, regardless of the population, there are people who can be invited to the classroom as guest speakers. Some of the invited people may be lifelong citizens and will open the eyes of students about topics of issues they did know existed in their community. Having them in the classroom brings the wider community into the students' lives. So take an opportunity about that. The guest speakers have a chance to connect with students, meeting them in an environment they may not have been part of since they attended school. Having a guest speaker in our classroom is always fun. Doesn't matter if the speaker is coming face to face or if that invitee is coming virtually. Besides the lesson students learn, many guests enjoy the attention and students look forward to hearing a different voice. Students, they ask questions, they are encouraged to seek more information, and students may become inspired by a guest speaker and interesting subject when hearing about it firsthand. Before you decide to host a speaker, contact the intended person or the intended speaker to establish a date and a time. Inform the guests of any technology that might be available for their use and ask the speaker of other needs they may have for their presentation. When booking a guest, inform him or her of the total number of students because probably he or she want to be ready. Make sure to allow time for Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Try to be mindful about that time at the end because you know students, they have a lot of questions all the time. In addition, remember to remind the guest speaker of the assigned time for the presentation. In these settings, we can't have students for more than 30 minutes behind the screen. Also, guys, for example, when I'm saying about remind them about the age of the speakers, is because some guest speakers are used to speaking to other adults and their peers and may forget to age of the classroom audience. An insensitive remark may lead to an embarrassing situation or a complaint from a parent later that evening. So, furthermore, remind speakers to teach students instead of simply speaking to them. A good guest speaker will engage students and not simply lecture them about their expertise or topic. The next thing to consider, it's important to prepare your students before your guest speaker's presentation. Prepare the students about the topic that the guest speaker will be presenting. The guest speaker's topic should be related to recent lessons or to the curriculum. So students will likely already have some background information related to the subject. Challenge the students to listen carefully and consider asking students to prepare a set of questions they will like to ask the speaker during the Q&A session. Once the guest speaker leaves, conduct a debriefing with the students, held either immediately or the next day. The session will maximize learning, and the more you talk about what they have just learned, the more they will benefit from it. In addition, some guest speakers encourage feedback. They love feedback from the audience following their talks. A simple evaluation by students of the guest speaker presentation may be appreciated and will also benefit the speaker. Something that I used before was an exit ticket. I created an exit ticket to evaluate the activity after that. There's a time to mention a funny example about that. After our presenter finished the presentation, one of my students, I was missing something, and one of my students turned on the microphone and said, "Profe Manfredo, you are missing something. You told us at the beginning that we have to fill out an exit ticket at the end of this presentation, but the meeting was over, so it was pretty late for that." But just to give you an idea how many things can happen. Okay, guys. So because this webinar, there's a quote that I want to share with you because it's so related with us now this morning. To win big in life, the solution is simple. Go overboard. Do everything you can to overwhelm, over deliver, and overcompensate. And you will overcome any obstacles that stands between you and the goal you desire. Okay, to begin, I want to let you know what I mean when I say that I live and teach in paradise. This is the Outer Banks, located in North Carolina. You can see the map, the red marker right there is showing where the Outer Banks is located. So this is the Outer Banks. North Carolina's famed Outer Banks are fully of history. These northernmost beaches were home of America's first colony, the Wright's first flight, and the nation's first seizure. So I'm mentioning this because having a guest speaker in this small island is not that easy as you can think, but virtually is helping us a lot with that. Here's a wonderful picture about my lovely hometown for now, for the next years. Okay, so now it's time to warm up. Please, guys, join me on the link that we are gonna share with you on the chat box and answer the questions. The question that I'm asking you this morning. So, what famous person would you like to have in your class? What is that person? Use a sticky note. You can use a sticky note, and right here, I'm gonna show you on my screen. You can get a sticky note and type who is that person. If you could invite a famous guest to your classroom, who can be that person? We have some examples right here. Some people is talking about Malala. There's a couple examples. Go ahead, guys, and join me on Jamboard. Okay, Nelson Mandela. People is saying Nelson Mandela. Remember, you could invite famous guests to your classroom, but just try to focus on what areas do you want, or what is the reason to invite that person. Okay, some people are just joining us. Go ahead, guys. We have 3 minutes to complete this activity, and then we'll move forward. Okay, there's some astronauts also. Michelle Obama. So interesting, a lot of interesting opinions. That will be fantastic. I can't even imagine how students, they will be excited knowing that a person like Malala or Michelle Obama are coming to their classrooms. Thank you, guys. I'm not sure if all of you already are familiarized with Jamboard, but Jamboard is a cool tool that we can use with our students in the classrooms. If you could invite a famous guest to your classroom, who would you invite? If you don't have enough room on the first slide, there's a couple slides ahead. You can also scroll all the way there and you can add your sticky note. Perfect. We can see, oh, Greta, that's amazing. Governor Cooper from North Carolina. So interesting opinions. Angela Merkel, amazing. Okay, guys, let's see how that's going. We have 1 minute and 40 seconds. We can still wait for the President of the United States. Even if you are teaching abroad, you can also invite that President of your country. That will be fantastic. Perfect. If you guys do not have enough room on this slide, you can also join me on the next slide. There's 4 slides right here you can get. Amazing. That's awesome. Okay, it's time to go back to our main presentation and continue talking about having a special guest in our classroom. Okay, now it's time to talk about the 3 lessons that I just learned when I invited famous people. The first one, it's time to demystify famous. Famous are humans like you and me. They are humans like you and me, guys. Famous, they are like, I can tell you, before the boom of social media, celebrities seems unattainable. We did not know anything about their lives. Indeed, many of us idealize them through their characters on radio or television. That has changed, and now celebrities have opened the door and let us know how their day will go by. Do not make the mistake to think Michelle Obama, Malala, Rigoberta Menchú, or any of the person that you added on the Jamboard will never read your letter. Email or direct message through the different platforms on which you follow them. Guys, go ahead and start planning this unforgettable experience for your students. Famous people are not Olympians did it anymore. The second lesson that I want to share with you is about altruism. There are many people out there waiting and willing to call to contribute. So Many of them have campaigns that could be directed to your topic of interest. If you are teaching about culture, politics, economics, sustainable development goals, you just have to know how to direct your focus of attention to the right people, to the right person. Don't forget to consider all the edges. So the third thing and the most important lesson that I learned is about mirroring and inspiring. Inspiring stories behind the character. Don't invite people just because it's famous. Invite persons or people because they have something to tell you, because they have something to share with your students, because they are willing to inspire with their lives someone else's. Uh, how many of us at this moment will miss attending a concert by our favorite artist or listening to our favorite speaker? The feeling of meeting a celebrity is unique, not only because of the expectations created, but because of everything that person inspires. Don't be afraid to send a message, email, or letter to that person who has inspiring stories for you or your class. Remember that your students are today more than ever looking for role models. Their personality is forming. Their future goals are being mapped out. Hearing a success story can be trigger a future inspired by those who have already traveled the path. So don't hesitate. Send that or start planning that activity today. Um,
Awesome. Well, thank you so
how
much,
that looks in my
Manfredo, for having
classroom?
me here. It's
How that looks? What does this looks in our classroom? Let's talk about that. Last fall, in one of those moments when inspiration struck, like because the pandemic, we had a lot of time to think about things going on. I remember that time when it's like this idea came to my mind. I thought I should take advantage of what this pandemic has taught us and how we have learned to incorporate technology into our instruction. Because in a regular situation, bringing someone to the distant outer banks in person will be nearly impossible. Some time ago, I was following a journalist from Honduras on Instagram. She is a co-host in a morning show called Despierta America on Univision Network, a program seen in almost all Latin American countries. This journalist became popular for her work, but including in her articles situations that promoting Latin culture in all its variants. This journalist, she won an Emmy Award for her journalistic work on behalf of women and the Hispanic community. I decided to give it a try. Why not? In the end, and it doesn't hurt to try, I sent her a direct message on Instagram, briefly and informally explaining my purpose. A few days later, she responded, telling me to send her an email to her institutional email. From that moment, we began to organize a fantastic event that culminated in a wonderful read aloud of Just Ask, a book written by Judge Sonia Sotomayor, an inspiring book that motivates to value the difference present in our classroom. Let me show you one example.
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Manfredo, for having me here. It's my honor to be able to share this next couple of minutes with you guys. Like Manfredo said, Professor Manfredo said, my name is Theriano. I'm from Honduras. I grew up in Honduras, but I was very lucky that I got to go to school in North Carolina, not very far from where you guys are at. I attended Elon University and I lived there for 4 years. So I kind of know North Carolina and I miss it. But I have great memories there. Right now, I'm here in Miami. This is my balcony. And because of COVID, I have to work from home. So just like you guys are having classes from home, I have to work from home. So we're all at home, but we're going to have a good time. Are we ready? ¿Estamos listos?
Let me tell you, that was fantastic. Our students, they were so excited. As you can see, Mighty Interiano, she has a wonderful career on television, especially in behalf of the Hispanic community. So now it's time to show you my students' reaction. They were so involved in the process all the time. They were so involved. Our students, they were involved all the time in the process. We invited parents and administrators to expand the impact of this experience. You invite people not just to promote yourself, you invite people to promote what are you doing about global awareness in your classroom. In the video that I'm gonna show you, my student Grayson, during his interaction with our guest, told her what it's like to live in this place. But beyond that, Grayson, like everyone else, had a memorable moment when he knew that he was an important piece in this event, from the gear of what was happening simultaneously in the house of these guys with so many dreams. So, Mighty, we have one of our students. He wants to share with you how living the Outer Banks is. Él va a decirte cómo es vivir aquí. A ver, ¿dónde está nuestro estudiante? ¿Está listo, Grayson? Vamos a contarle a nuestros invitados cómo es vivir aquí en los Outer Banks.
Aquí hay algunas cosas interesantes sobre el lugar donde vivimos. La isla de Adres divide el océano Atlántico y el Pamlico Sound. La isla tiene 50 millas de largo y 3.5 millas de ancho. Adres es el hogar del faro de quebradas de 208 pies de altura, que es el faro de ladrillo más alto del mundo. Adres es bien conocido por su pesca comercial y charter, que proporciona muchos puestos de trabajo a la zona. Me encanta estar aquí porque puedo nadar en el océano.
Oh, Grayson, eso fue impresionante, Grayson. Okay, guys, you don't have, well, you all are educators and you know that feeling, but how you feel so proud of your students. But something that I'm trying to share with my students is, guys, it's okay, I'm feeling proud of you, but I want you feeling proud of yourself. And they know that feeling, and they are experiencing this because they are able and they are comfortable interacting with people. So, guys, now I'm gonna show you something that that changed my life in many ways. The book that we read with Mighty was about difference. Just Ask. It's a book related with many difference in our classroom. And one of my students, he was willing to share about that, how that how that feels. So that day will be a day that none of the attendees will ever forget. But the one I can safely assume will never forget is Isaiah. Isaiah shared about his difference after feeling identified with the characters in Judge Sotomayor's book, read by our guest, Maite Interiano. ¿Alguien tiene alguna pregunta? Isaiah, go ahead, Isaiah. Vamos, Isaiah, dime.
Yo tengo algunas diferencias y algunas veces la gente me pregunta sobre eso, pero en realidad no me afecta.
Oh, Isaiah. He was enough brave to share with us that he has some difference, and sometimes people is asking him, but he said like that's not affecting him at all. Also, guys, in another round of guests, I also wanted to bring a piece of my Guatemalan homeland to my classroom. I invited the Guatemalan consul in North Carolina, who visited us virtually to read about what it's like to live in Guatemala. That was another experience in a different area, and students, they even love that. So now, guys, it's time to talk like how to set yourself up for smooth sailing. Communication is key. Openly express to parents and communicating and community stakeholders your willingness to welcome visitors in the classroom. Also, prepare your class with the background knowledge and inquire STEM questions and get them excited for your guest. If you can't create that expectation, the event is gonna be affected by that. Try to create expectation about that. If there is anything else you need to prepare them for, like vocabulary, questioning, etc., be sure to front load that information so that students get the most out of that guest session. Guys, touch base with your guests prior to the presentation. Discuss what your or their expectations are. Questions they may have are scheduled, or they schedule. This could be as casual as a general class discussion or might include visuals and or digital presentation. That is up to you and your guests. Just be sure to discuss things ahead of time so that you are both prepared, especially now when technology is involved. Um, and I think the most important tip that I can give you is do not forget to follow up with a token of your appreciation to the guest. Aside from it being proper manners, guests, they love to hear or see how much their presentation made an impact on your students. My favorite way to thank our guests are to send them a digital thank you note, including a photo of them in action, or create a collage of all the photos taken that day and have it printed, or tweet or post about the event on your class or professional platform and include a lot of pictures. As you can see right here, I tweeted that time about how that looks. I was saying, I was pretty worthy with that, saying like, how often do you have an Emmy winner in your DLI class? In addition, a small article may be written for the school newspaper or local community paper or online publication detailing the speaker's presentation in your classroom or at the school. Um, Now, guys, right here, there's other options for guest experiences. Remember, you can also invite mystery readers, a Nobel Prize, actors, first ladies, etc. Now is so trending Diana Trujillo performance. She's a Colombian aerospace engineer at NASA Jet Propulsion Lab. You can invite her. Just do it. Like you don't lose anything trying. She's currently leading an engineering team responsible for a mission to Mars. Just you can invite her. You can also invite former First Lady Michelle Obama. Just businesses, banks. You can invite people from food services or grocery stores, or fire, police department, STEM people, diplomats. So there's a lot of variety there that you can invite. But why this is so important? Why having a special guest is so important? The main reason that I can tell you is first-hand perspective. No matter how great of a teacher one might be, nothing can compare to having someone with first-hand experience telling about and teaching a variety of topics. Also, another reason why this is important is the generational variety. One aspect that has been particularly interesting with my guests has been the age spans. From younger than me to much older, invitations, inviting others into the room provide variety experience perspectives, often also involving age points. It's great for students to learn from our older generations. And here's the next one reason that I think is the one that you are looking for: student engagement. Students are naturally excited and engaged when guests are presenting new information to them, or at least that has consistently been the case with my students. Um, and another one in our DLI program, which is important, students' pride. If your guests happen to be relative or the same ethnic group, friends, or in some way related of one of more of your students, watch how their faces light up and chest puff out, which pride as they introduce your speaker. It's great to see them proud of their friends and family, of their own culture, and respecting their expertise. Also, they have the opportunity to practice as an audience. Students get in a group with their own class of peers and with you as their teacher leader. That's great. But it's also valuable for them to have things shaken up every so often. Bringing in guests gives them a practice listening to and being a respectful audience for presenters, teachers, other than you. Um, well, it's time to summarize. A guest speaker in our classroom, guys, in my point of view, is a great tool that need to be used more often. because it provides specific knowledge, personal level comprehension, and it motivates students to actively participate in the classroom with a different person who can answer their specific questions. Okay, guys, time has run out. I hope you enjoyed this session as much as I did. If you have any questions, you can send me an email. Here's my email. Or you can join the discussion about the summit in our community. Or if you haven't yet, follow me on Twitter. Just open your device camera and scan the QR on this slide. I think, Ana Maria, we have a Q&A session, right?
Yes, absolutely. Manfredo, thank you so much for your presentation. You probably haven't had a chance to look through the chat, but there are lots of people sharing, and some of them have posted some questions. So at this point, we have about 15, 20 more minutes in the session. So we would invite you in to join in the conversation. So some of you have posted in the chat that you are also planning on inviting local guests into your classroom. So feel free to unmute and ask Manfredo any questions or share about your own plans. Also, some of you have already done this too. So unmute your mics and share how that went. As well as if you've had a question in the chat and you feel comfortable unmuting and asking your question live, feel free to do so. If not, I'm happy to read through them, but we always like to give an opportunity for dialogue and conversation.
Thanks, Ana Maria. I can't wait for that questions or comments. I appreciate every comment that you type in the chat box.
Well, I have my list of questions, and if any one of you would like to jump in at any point, please go ahead and do so. Manfredo, there were a couple of questions about the age of the group of the students in the video and the grade level.
Okay, they are third graders. The students that I show you are third graders. They are in a 50-50 DLI program. That means they are getting half of the instruction in English and half of the instruction in Spanish. So they are third graders, like let's say 8 or 9 years old.
Gotcha. Thank you. And I'm also personally curious about what kind of questions your students had of your guest.
Well, one of the questions was like related about how she decided to move to North Carolina. If that was her dream or she just got the opportunity. They were asking so because we have a lot of girls in my classroom, and they were inspired because her story, and they say, okay, this is the time to ask something. That was kind of the questions, and most of the time during that event, students are asking or commenting about what they are listening on the book, because the example that I show you were read aloud, and students were so engaged commenting about the book with our guest.
Gotcha. Thank you. I think I saw a hand raised, Herman. If you're still on the call, go ahead and unmute and ask your question, unless I completely made this up. But I think I saw a hand raised.
Hello. Yeah, that's right. Well, I wanted to share the experience that I got with the same activity, and it's with a doctor that she was born in Colombia in a normal family. So my students were working about the future. Sorry about my cats.
No worries at all.
So she was born in a normal family with poor income in Colombia, and she reached the level of postdoctorate in Stanford University. So one of the things that I am excited about, Manfredo, by the way, congratulations. You are awesome, guy. You are an excellent teacher. I'm gonna follow your example, okay?
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, and well, at the beginning, as he said, it was difficult to say, I'm gonna do it. because this is a postdoc. Now she's working in Ithaca, in another scientific group. But I took the chance and I sent the email, and she made the whole presentation. And my students were talking about their future. And for a person that was born in Colombia in a poor family to reach the level of postdoctorate in Stanford is kind of a career, an example that we can give to the students. And also, I want to say that it's not only that kind of people that we work with that is valuable. It's also the thing that if you think about people from the normal community in the same group of stations, I got another group of students that they invited uh, some people from the restaurants. And it was so nice to see how it was the same value of the conversation, because it's a cultural interchange. And that's the valuable part of this. So the only thing that I'm gonna say is that, again, it's clear that all the teachers that we are here watching this summit, we are interested in following the example of people like you.
Oh,
And
thank you so much. I'm so honored with your words. Thank you.
So, guys, thank you so much for the summit. Thank you so much for the invitation. And I'm I'm gonna stay the whole day with you to see what else can I copy. And thank you so much.
Of course.
So glad to hear all of that experience. Like, we are doing these amazing things across the world, and it's just we need to share what we are doing. In that way, we can learn from each other.
Absolutely. A few more questions came in through the chat. So if you would like to unmute and ask your question, you're welcome to do so. If not, I'm happy to pass it on.
I don't have a question, but I just want to say, Manfredo, thank you for sharing your personal experience inviting people over your classroom. And I have done it before. Oh, actually, my name is Hector Guevara, and I'm from Honduras. And this is my first year here in the United States. And I'm working at Hayden Elementary School in Manassas, Virginia. And what you have been doing in your classroom is something that I had done in the past when I was in Honduras, but I was inviting just local people who had more knowledge about certain topics. And to be honest, my students really enjoy those sessions when we have new people in our classroom, people who had knowledge about agriculture, about animals, and things like that. And it's amazing what you can do inviting someone else over your classroom. And thank you for sharing your personal experience with us.
Awesome. So glad to hear that you are part of the participant learning community too. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, everybody here is now getting a little bit of a taste of what our Thursday United We Teach calls are like. There's a lot of talking and sharing and connection. So that's wonderful. I think, Libni, you have your hand raised, so feel free to unmute.
Hi, Manfredo. It was really lovely to see your presentation. My question was related to your experience. The first time you invited someone over, how was it? I guess you felt, I don't know, what did you experience previously? Yeah, and what you experienced after that?
It's okay when you are doing something for the first time to be nervous, because you don't know about students' reaction. You don't know if technology is going to work. Uh, there's many things that you need to consider at a time, but you also need to give yourself a little bit of grace. The first time anything is going to be perfect, and you need to be confident about yourself, about your own plans, because we as a teachers, we know about planning, and we are spending a lot of time planning and trying to consider all the details of scenarios, the possible scenarios. I was pretty nervous having someone in my classroom, because I was trying to keep the expectations for the students, but also the expectations for the guest. So because parents and administrators, they were invited to that meeting too, was like pretty stress for all of us. I also invited people from participant learning. They were in that event. As I said before, it's not to promote ourselves as a teacher, it's to promote global awareness, what we are doing to share our culture, to share what we are doing to make this world a better place for everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Manfredo. Manfredo, there's another question in the chat from Katie around what your approach was when you messaged the famous person to make sure that they actually saw your message.
Oh, that's a good question. So, like we are spending a lot of time just on the cell phone because when you don't have too much to do and during the pandemic time, like you spend a lot of time on devices. And I was following her like many years ago, and I was seeing her development in her career. And one day when that idea came out to my mind, I say, okay, I'm gonna invite her. I'm gonna invite her. And at the same time, some ideas came to my mind, who could be the next person. For example, now I'm planning to invite Rigoberta Menchú. She is a Peace Nobel Prize in Guatemala. I'm going to invite her to one of my next classroom, could be in September. But just, contacting one of these persons, as I said before, it's time to demystify about famous. There are people like you and me. We can't lose anything. Just send a message. It's up to them. They can decide if they want to read the message or reply to you. And Mighty, she did. She did a couple days later, but I was checking. Like, I was like being aware if she was seeing the message or not. And that told me that she was willing to collaborate and be a guest in my classroom.
Thank you, Manfredo. I think we have another raised hand. Humberto, feel free to unmute.
Hello and good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Humberto.
First of all, thank you very much for the presentation. It's really interesting and amazing. I enjoyed it. I am from Belize, so we are neighbors, Guatemala and Belize. But to everyone else, very pleasant good morning. My question here is, when it comes to selecting the invited guest, do we want to consider maybe asking the children who they would be interested in listening from? I know that we as educators want to say, well, we will bring in someone that's going to portray or bring about the ideas and things that are connected to the curriculum. But also, many times I would want to think about what the children would want to. Maybe third graders might have an interest in particular authors, singers, I don't know, something like that. So I'm just wondering if you have tried that way, or has it only been whereby the teacher decides who the person will be invited?
At that time, when I invited Mighty, we were celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month in the United States. And because I know her career and how she's promoting all the time the Hispanic community in the United States, I decided to invite her. You need to be pretty mindful about this. Like, giving students options could create frustration when a person don't accept your invitation to come to our classroom. So you need to be mindful about it. Or explain them that some people can accept or some people cannot. As Michelle say on the chat box, you never know who will say yes unless you ask. But as I say, you can provide a couple choices to the students. They can vote. You can create graphs, and you can monitor their interest about one person. But you need to be careful about creating that frustration when a person is not coming. And let's say the majority of the class was expecting Michelle Obama to come to our classroom, but she is so busy and she can accept that until the next 2 years, for example. So I don't want students being frustrated because that. Instead of that, I can just give them the surprise. Guys, this special guest is coming. This is gonna be my job to create expectations about that guest.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Suyapa, I think I saw your raised hand, and I see you, Iris, too. Yes, yes. So Suyapa, if you're on the call, I saw yours first, so feel free to unmute. If not, let's go ahead, Iris.
All right.
Yes.
So thank you, Manfredo, for your presentation. I just wanted to know if you have considered to go beyond, not just share in your classroom, but involve the community, the school community or the families. I just wanted to know that because I know that amazing things are happening inside your classroom. So have you considered to go beyond and involve all the school community in this kind of activities?
I'm planning because next Monday, March 1st, we are coming back to the building. I'm pretty excited. As you can see, I'm in my classroom because after this webinar, I need to continue getting everything ready for Monday. I'm planning to create like a mystery reader in our classroom, like a routine. In that way, like weekly for Fridays or one of the days, I can have like a community member reading for our students or sharing a specific topic that we are teaching at that time, especially because I want to empower the Latinos community in this island, because we are there are just couple families, like the number is not that big. So that's why I want to empower every community here. In that way we can create a community feeling, and having mystery reader will improve that. And as you say, going above and beyond, creating that community feeling is gonna change the rule games.
Thank you, Manfredo. Claudia, I think you have a question too.
Yes, I will actually like to ask you, Manfredo, if you take into account like that your guest speaks their students' language as well, or it doesn't matter for you if the speaker is just, because Mighty speaks Spanish and I could see that she also speaks English. So I would like to know if you took that into account, or it just like, it was lucky that she could speak English. And also, how was the experience like when booking the event? Like you told her, for example, today, and then for when did you book the meeting?
Okay. The first question, the expectation will have having someone who speaks Spanish because the nature of the DLI program, and we are teaching in Spanish, but I need to be aware or to know that some guests, according to the topic that we will be teaching or talking that day, they won't be able to speak Spanish. Like if I'm going to invite Michelle Obama to talk about empowering girls in the world, she won't be able to speak Spanish. I assume, I'm not sure. You never know. But the expectation will be inviting someone who speaks Spanish, but I would like to say that is depending the activity that you are doing. If you are talking about goals, for example, you can sustainable goals, you can invite someone who speaks English or Spanish. That's gonna be fine. And the next question, Mighty, she is presenting, she is on air in the morning at 8 a.m. in the morning, most of the time on the on Univision Network, Despierta America. And my meetings with the students were like at 8 a.m. in the morning. And she say like, I'm willing to help, but I can't go at a time. I can't go at a time because I'm working at a time on the TV. And we decided to reschedule with the students. I invited them, I explained to them, I made sure that they understood that we changed the time for that meeting because that. And that created a lot of expectation too, because saying to students, she can join us at that time because she's gonna be on that TV, on air at that time. And students, they were like, oh, a super famous person is coming. That's why we need to meet at a different time. And I told them, like, guys, just be ready to be there. Don't miss that meeting. And that's how we schedule the meeting, according to her time, basically.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Well, thank you, Manfredo, so much. And thank you all for such an engaging Q&A session. We absolutely loved it. And Manfredo, kudos to you for everything that you do. Again, we're so honored to have you in our program and as a presenter at the summit today. So before we let you all go, just a couple of reminders. All of these sessions are recorded and they will be posted in the United We Teach community within the next week. I imagine that you are all now familiar with this community. I will go ahead and put the link to it in the chat so that you can join it if you haven't already. Also, please know that there's an opportunity for you to earn a digital badge for your participation in the summit, as well as if you need CEUs or anything else from your district, we're also happy to send you a certificate of participation. To earn the badge, go ahead and navigate to the courses tab in the community and click on the United We Teach reflection. And here we will just ask you to fill out a very brief reflection, feedback form, as well as reflection, and then the badge will be yours. And we hope that you will proudly post it on social media once you've earned it. It is well deserved. And then, as always, we invite you to continue to connect with us in the United We Teach discussion thread during the summit as well as after, and I will put the link to that in the chat as well. Let me see. One other final reminder is, not reminder, but just a little note as we wrap up. If you would like to know more about Participate Learning or about our programs, feel free to go ahead and visit our website. And again, we thank you for coming to the session today. We hope you're enjoying the summit, and we hope to see you in the next few sessions. And Manfredo, again, thank you so much for everything.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your participation. Bye-bye.